All right, cool. We're back. All right. First question is, what's up with this color? I do like green. I'm not a huge fan of the dark green. Don't mind it here. I'm thinking maybe that gets a little bit too dark. Could you up the tone? I think that's the right name for it. I don't really know. Also, couldn't hurt to have some basic information. How many weeks? Was it a personal or group project? Did you work for a company? I don't think that. Um, so what I like about it are the headings, because that's all I'm really interested in right here. So 50% they're placed incorrectly. 50% of energy cost. Okay. Yeah, and they'll turn into, well, so we're in, what's the goal? What do you want to achieve? All this leads to me to think that energy cost is expensive. Why is it expensive? How do you propose we can make it go lower? And then show me some ideas on how you could achieve that. I don't really know what thermostats. Um, yeah, I like the craft of the thermostat, but why was it due? Yeah, still redoing, still redoing. Okay, I'm lacking. You're doing good so far, setting up the foundation. I mean, your cost is what most people go for, because everybody can empathize with cost. But how does your solution address it? Right now, I give you more feedback, but I really can't, because there's lots of things that are being redone. No, come back. It was great. Okay, here we go. Let's work on a little bit of spacing here. Period. Scoot that up a bit. And I would prefer 3 images. Maybe move up a little bit. Scale down DIY. I'm fine with hydroponic gardens. I'm scale down that as well. Then like rule of thirds, unattractive logo, unattractive and as a big header. Maybe why it's unattractive. Same thing with bulky logo. The word bulky, why, weak. What do you mean by weak though? You it's an organization thing. Scale down almost everything, and use your spacing better. Have some more white space. Let things breathe a bit. Let's see. I'm not really interested in reading all of it. Maybe bolding would help me, or if they have like 2 or 3 things of interest, you can make a logo to signify what their thing of interest is, and that way when you're doing the sketches later, you can read those logos back up. Is there any way to redo these graphs so it's more contextual? I mean, you're talking about cooking, you're talking about gardening. Maybe there's a way to put something either garden themed or cooking themed into these. It's also like if you get 100% on something, it's not really anything. It's just kind of a bad question. Have you heard of Auburn football? Great. Everyone has. So it doesn't really tell us anything new. I say kick it out. Let's see. Yes, no. I don't feel realistic. How many people did you interview? 4? I mean, just look. That's what I get from the numbers. Would you use a product that utilizes hydroponic gardening? You know, these weak questions. I mean, they don't really tell me very much. Let me see. No. Give it up. What I'm looking for is some people with like some critical feedback. 4, 6, all right, 145. So 3 out of 4 like it. I'm interested in extremes. So what's good about it? What's bad about it? It leaks. To me, this is a more tangible source of opinionated feedback, because what you got really doesn't paint a picture. It's kind of a weak survey. Sorry to keep on saying that, but that's what I see. Is there any other way you can kind of border this thing except of leaving a white? You use an orange, scale that down a little bit. It's about overbearing. Let's redo this border a little bit tighter. Make it orange, push it to the right, and then you gotta give me some information, because all I see here is you made some shapes. And I do like callouts, but it's a bit too small for me to read these things. So if you do want to do the show me the volume, then show me the one specifically that you went with. Let's I don't know, bring more benefits. What were you hunting for? What'd you come across? Something to that effect. What is up with all this text everywhere, though? Come on. You don't need to fill every inch with information. White space is okay, too. And how did you come to the decision that the hexagons was the correct choice? What are you testing? And we already know that hydroponic systems work. So it's like you're testing something that already works. Not much to discover there. At least that's my assumption. You know, what's wrong with current hydroponic systems and what are you improving? Similarly, huge. Knock that down some in terms of size. Also maybe knock it back, make it so it's not super bold or 100% opacity. Maybe 90% would help. And that's not the full story because it gets recycled and thrown back up top, right? I'm not going to read. Right? It's like you've got. There's 3 levels of information, but maybe there should be 4. Water flow shouldn't be that prominent. It's about the project, not about your headings. This should be priority number 1. That can be priority number 2. Then a heading, priority number 3, and then priority number 4 are the written out quote unquote paragraphs. Like I'm not going to read them on my first glance through. And speaking of the module, like how many do you sell in a kit? 3, 5? Come on, watermelon? I don't really see watermelon happen. Nor cantaloupe. And speaking of scale, you really never showed me scale. Ever. Right, there's a scalability in the fact that it's modularity, but I don't know how big one unit is. So I mean, when you tell me it produces a watermelon, I look at this greenery, I'm like, can't do it. So I think scale would be an important addition to this project. All right, cover. Why do we need a cover? Man, I'm really hung up here. Their prosthesis could subject them to embarrassment or pity. If I was reading this and I had a prosthetic, I'm like, nah, I'm not embarrassed or I don't feel pitied. Yes, it makes me look different, but why does looking different make me embarrassed or pitied? Man, are we even... How's my volume? Let me pause and figure out. How's my volume? All right, we're working. All right, I'm going to plug in, see if that makes it a bit better. Are we going all the way up? I don't know. All right, checking on volume again. All right, we're good. Didn't plug my headset in, but I think up to this point we're good. Let's say this another way. Or it could be a symbol of life and triumph. All right, let's say that another way. Power the users. I want to make their processes into a source of confidence and personality. My goals are low cost, secure fit, streamlined, custom built. You have two sets of goals. One is your overarching goal, empower the user through low cost, secure fit, streamlined, customizability. Just weird, this divide. What's up with this font? All right, that's not the font style you're using or typeface style. That's just something else. Change it. I don't know what alleys means. Hyphenization. All right, main cost is very high. How high? And is that a level that's unattainable to most people? What is a price point attainable to most people? And what fidelity does that price point give you? Question, prosthetics, cost down. I would say these are too abstract. Go more simple. Blake, can we let this page breathe a little bit better? I don't think that's relevant. What's up with the question marks? I like to hear about Blake, but let's just talk about Blake here. I kick that out because of, like, if you're a designer, you're not getting to know the user, you're being a bad designer. So that's kind of already implied. Personal connection is wrapped up in getting to know the user, probably. An efficient use of resources. I'm assuming using the machines in the building, so really not that particular. What are your goal? What's your price point? All right, I thought you had something going on here. So you use those 3 logos through here. So you have your personal logo, you have your fit logo on left, fit logo on right, but then the cost doesn't come through. Oh, there it is. It took a while. You lost me. Sketches is all right. What are you trying to figure out? Is it attachment? Is it the 3D housing? Once again, do you kind of, it's almost like a clamshell fit. Is that indicative of the cost savings? What is this? I don't want to have to read this information for this all to make sense. So can you visualize that better? For the attachment method, we eventually landed on snap fit design. This was not being used in the market and takes advantage of natural properties of plastic. All right, so this is where I'm getting curious about the project. And what's up with this just blank space? Like consistent, 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 not consistent. What happened here? So because you are using 3D printing, you don't have to use quote unquote natural properties of plastic. I mean, injection molding does give you rigidity and a better thin wall, but are we doing 3D printing or not? Or is there a reason to make like a core system that would justify every single unit using the same type of plastic and then snapping this casing around it? I don't know. Maybe that's worth including. All right, so this feeds back into price point and how come, where are they? These big name companies don't do something like this. Tolerances are fine-tuned. Are all prosthetics have the same like shaft diameter, or is that new? And then how do you adjust it? Because once again, if you're trying to do multiple different affordances, you want to make sure you have one adjustable injection molding piece. That way you're not doing multiple injection molding pieces. I do like the sequence of use though. And you have it, you clip it on your external shell. Although I do wish it was more form fitting, and you could. I don't see any reason why you can't get closer on here because it is a 3D printed object. There's no mold to really adhere to. And is there a reason you would ever want to take it off? I like this. Depending on price point, it tells me how many I'm going to buy. I think this would be better. Honestly, I bet it better as a web app or a website opposed to a phone app. Because I'd like to get down to the details. So why did you choose phone app? Let me continue reading it and see if it works out. The bolded section works a bit. I'm tempted to critique the design of this guy. Like, what if you don't have a residual leg, but you still want it to fit what you consider normal as the amputee? How do you adjust that sizing? Also, it's multiple images of the leg. It's not just one. You gotta do like a 360. So I'm not gonna judge the app right now. It's kind of beyond my purview. Visually, it looks fine. I think maybe it's a little text heavy outside of it. I mean, this should do the majority of the explaining, and that's actual benefits. Also, what's your font size? Because, like, right, 4 down is about as much as I can do that I'm interested in looking at. When you get to 5, I'm like, no, too much. Prefer 3. 3D printing is 3D printing. I mean, it's a elevated hot glue gun, so not so interesting. What I'm interested in is, like, how did you utilize 3D printing? There's no weight material. How did you achieve that? Very minimal assembly time. That's good. You have an upper and a lower. They're fit together. Bolts and bosses. Now, are these 3D printed pieces, or are they hardware pieces you have to accumulate from another source? Okay. Tattoos makes no sense. Because the entire time you've been talking about the form of it, I mean, even this talks about making different forms for different personalities, right? And then you throw in a tattoo. That's one of the graphic design element, which you could change these constantly. It's more like a surface application. Why in the world would you currently getting a vinyl sticker? Okay, but I felt like we were talking about geometry, and then you go to a surface application. And then here, geometry looks good. I mean, it's a little dark. I can see what's going on here. Just don't know why. Only reason why I would accept like a cover tattoo is if earlier on you start talking about his preference, and so it's a mixture of wanting physical elements and graphical elements. Attitude is misspelled, but you got to introduce that idea earlier. That way, when you show me, it's not a surprise. It's a cool project. There's just a couple of missing elements to it. Sketched rendering before final model. All right. Also, remind me. You got to remind me of the benefits of why is this life better? Why is the solution better now at the end of the project than it was at the beginning of the project? Midnight. This sucks. Why air? See, it has something that's spacing funky. Also, I feel like I said it. I'm tired of saying it. Do not show your final solution, or don't show all of your final solution at the beginning. It's like putting everything in the front cover. If I don't like the front cover, I'm not going to read. We don't want that. We want to be abstracted and get them interested. That way they're interested and keep them going. Because if I don't like it, all right. We're talking about air. Let's not do this. This is like everything color of the rainbow. Pick a color scheme and stay with it. Right now, this is not picking anything. If it's like a mind map, find another way to represent this information. Don't go all crazy with the colors. And then have logos. Respiratory health logo. Children logo. Inflammation logo. Cardiovascular. And the benefit of putting logos is if these are the things you're trying to solve later on when you're doing your sketches, which I don't see any sketches, you can put them beside your items saying, hey, I'm fixing this. A major downside here is there's no concept exploration. You did some squares. It's difficult to me to figure out how you're trying to solve these things if you just do a bunch of squares. What are the current designs? What's good and bad about them? Air purifier and humidifier. Why are you combining the two. Also, it helps with this Adobe project to give me some information that you're using the 1+ system. What is it? What were you challenged as a class to do? Because without doing it, it kind of kills, like, okay, why is it that form? Because you're limited to the battery. You didn't tell me that, so I'm assuming. Don't let me assume, because I always assume wrong. These leaders need to be more delicate. This should be an entire sketching page explaining how you got to your final idea. And then I really don't care about that. I'm more interested in the airflow. Some details. You presenting it in a context. Where do you plug the battery into? Maybe it runs off of hopes and dreams. Try to keep that spacing equal. Right now you're doing nothing with the margins, and if you're doing nothing with the margins, let's check. Nothing, nothing, nothing. If you're doing nothing with the margins, get rid of them, because it's just eating up real estate. Don't care. Don't really care. It's nice if you present it to a client, but this is what I'm seeing first is the background instead of your interaction. Don't care. Danny Tran, his concept. It's not about that. It's a bad view. And this, I don't know it's harder for me to know the benefits because I don't know what you solved. So I kind of feel like this is a train wreck of a project. Somebody help you out. Somebody help me out. Benny. All right, we're talking about bags. All right. We'll see if this problem rectifies itself. You know how I feel about this. All right. Thank you, computer, for fixing it. Lots of white space up in here. Let's run rule of thirds. Boom, 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 vertically instead of the stack. I'm not going to read all that. Just give me a blanket statement. Being a parent is difficult. It's a huge adjustment. How can you make that life easier? Nanny Connie has a solution. I bet I said what you just said with a lot less words. That could work just vertically. That way I can read it horizontally, right? Because right now I have to go, whoop, let's go down, then wiggle down, up and wiggle down. Beautiful sketches, but what are you trying to solve? What's wrong with what's going on currently? What are your opportunities? Because right now, I mean, literally, just seeing this, you're drawing shapes. And you might have call-outs, but keep in mind, you're the one who chose this format. I'm not going to zoom in because I get lost. Page split, refinement. Not going to read that. So what were the things you improved? You can use call-outs on specific parts, but not reading. How about version 1, version 2? That way I see it's in a development instead of two different concepts. I could be wrong, but that's what I'd like to see. Did Nanny kind of give you direct feedback on what needs to be improved? I think coming from her gives it validity. Without her, I don't know. I'm not going to read it. Too long. Nothing bolded. You added something. This is weird. Front view, side view, side view. Why are we treating them all like side views? I'm okay with this page. I mean, this is easy for me to absorb and figure out what's going on. And I do like the sequence of use, but it feels a bit forced. Maybe what you can do is Photoshop out everything but the image. That way I can focus on it. I mean, it's not that it's bad, it's just priority number 1, priority number 2, and this is third. What are you trying to tell me? That this part latches down, that part latches out, this part raises up. It looks like it's removable, so maybe I'm on the right track. This is probably the best thing that I've seen of any Nanny County project. Someone has finally explained to me what the different zones are for and how those things are going to solve my problems. I'm going to stand up. I am standing up. at midnight. Everybody else is asleep in my home because finally someone explained to me the benefits to the human, the person using it. Right? What I'm talking about. Waiting for a prototype. What you waiting for? I do like some in-use stuff. Okay. Emotionally, I've just been saved a little bit. Solis. Sorry. I'm losing sanity. First sentence, fine. Second sentence, not fine. Flat pack Lumiere. And you can just say, design a cost-effective Lumiere that is to be cost-effective and shipped flat pack. I think that could encompass everything that you got. Design goals. Why's it gotta be sturdy? Interesting design. I wouldn't even say it's a design goal. I mean, think about the opposite. Are you going to make anything that's uninteresting? Why? Why would you even venture into that territory? So it's almost like it's not a goal. If you were to phrase it a little bit like earlier projects where there's a word you're trying to encompass or some type of visual brand language or mood board you're going for, but just to say it's interesting, nah. Cost efficient, cost effective works. Sturdy, opposite. Why are you going to make something unsturdy? I think that has more validity than saying something, I'm going to make something that's uninteresting. Inspiration, I will never read that. Just delete. Also, this is one heck of a mood board. It's all flat pack. I'd rather you take inspiration from something else that's not flat pack and make it flat pack than saying it's more of a stretch. It's more of a in this case a positive stretch. It's testing your skills of abstraction from a fully otherwise like traditional craftsmanship. Because this is more like copy paste elements. Talked about that. Talked about that. Why did you go into CAD? A lot of times, I mean, it is helping you figure out like what you got to get cut. So, is there a reason? I want to see 2 rounds of this phase, even if it didn't happen. I want to aha, because this project perfectly sets it up for it. I'm not going to read a word. So if I'm not going to read a word, either you're going to give me it in a digestible format or get rid of it. Can't read. You see how the font size changes as well? Can't read it, useless. Same thing with that. It's getting super small. At some point, I think, once again, font choice is too small for me to read. And if I got to zoom in, we're in trouble. But it's almost like you're showing me 5 images here and a 6th image. You're not giving me a lot of different information. So that's a good start. That's a good start. I'd rather see it in the context of a home than just being slightly reflected. I mean, it's a cool shot. I think it works great as an intro, but that should be in a home somewhere. Cool. I'm not going to read a word. All I see is Ruby OnePlus system. I feel like you can give me one statement of what's the mission of y'all using or getting integrated in OnePlus. And I can sum it up because I've seen this project. You're integrating the OnePlus system into more lifestyle brands and extending the product range of Adobe. I wonder if I said, shorten that up and explains it holistically. Brief. Teammate collaborative project with Adobe. That should be here. Roby Sponsor Studio, 10-week development, group research, individual development, something like that. I don't want this up and read, so I'm not. Product research. One downside of this is if I'm not familiar with the PA map, it doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to imagine that I don't know what it is. What are you trying to solve? That should be bigger. And it's not so much injury with construction workers, but it's also vehicles, flat tires, this. So I'd rather have that 3 blocks of information. That'll come later. So this is like, get me into the topic, and then you can show me marketing. But both on the same page, not buying it. Key insights. Bolt something around here. Fit together, lightweight, don't know, multiple people, magnetics, easy to fix, timely, Dropbox logo. So how can I absorb this information without reading each one individually? Sketch ideation, pros and cons. Also, a little bit of color couldn't hurt you either. And rather than seeing sketch ideation, this looks a lot like the final concept, which I think should be a bit bigger. And you should go from line weight sketches, a little bit of rendering, more fully rendered. Pretty good looking sketch over here. Prototype. Prototypes are great. I appreciate you didn't show me that you manufactured it, because I don't care how you manufactured it. What did you learn through this? It looks like you did some more about ergonomic, human scale testing, angles. So what did you learn? Explain it plainly, please. Exploded view. That just feels lacking. Oh boy, what can we do with this guy? I don't know. I'll give you an idea when I have a better one, but I'm running out of great ideas. Details, good. In the process, adding more detail shots. I don't mind this. It's a simple way to look at the page. Keep in mind, are you going to have a page split? No, I don't believe so. I've angered the PDF gods. How are we doing? All right. Are there ways, especially this one, can you zoom in on it more without losing the idea that you're talking about the shaft? And then move this up towards the center, because, I mean, I agree with you, make the photos larger, but we don't necessarily have to say details, and I think that might be keeping you from moving this up and keeping it centered. How it works, I do like this. I'm inclined to ask for a sequence of use, but is it really that complicated where you need a sequence of use? You turn it on, you put over metal, it sucks it off with the ground. But I'm not going to read it, right? I need very simple, like very just chunks of information. Benefits, not bad. Can we do a direct quote? Is it lying? Sure, but I'm not above lying. It's past midnight. Make this a quote. Quotation mark. Helps me get the job done right the first time. End quote. And you can say Auburn facilities manager, or you could quote one of the people you worked with at Ryobi. Probably not the Ryobi person, because they could track you down and go, I didn't say that. But hypothetical person at Auburn that you quote unquote worked with could drive that home. The orb. Bring this in a bit more. Like, I still want to be abstract, but I can't see anything. Maybe it's just because it hasn't loaded yet. but for inclination, bring that guy in some more. Hey, there we go. Thank you. Are you developing a company, or are you developing like visual brand language assets? I mean, I do like having these things: honesty, transparency, integrity. I'll see these guys again if you actually did use them. Water contains bugs. All right, why can't we drink distilled water? Number of people surveyed when. That's funky. Also, if you're talking about water contamination, you might want to get up in here into like Detroit or Flint. That'd be an interesting proposition. Also, the color palettes. I like blue. But nothing about that one, that one, that one. Yeah, blue to me, that's a model, no. But it's orb. I might save the blue orb till later. Because here it just kind of feels out of place, right? I mean, it doesn't really match anything else that you're doing. It just feels forced. All right, so you're doing some sort of water filtration. Think about if you want to do this as like a second year project, you say honesty, transparency, integrity. Literally, what do those things look like? Could you make me a mood board? That's like a third square. 1/3 is like, what does honesty physically look like, transparency, and integrity? And that way when you get into these sketches, you're something to draw off of. I can see a process between conceptually what you're going for and what you're ideating, but here's just these things come out of nowhere. It's a shelf. No. Also, if you are doing ideation, it would be better to fill some of these spaces up because you want to convey to them that you did lots of thinking and these were the ones that were most successful. Yes, I agree. Add more concepts. Proof of... girl. You're going to have to make a simple sketch. And I feel like it has to be a sketch because we're still pretty early on in the process of the project. But I don't see glass. I just see some really weird, bad... putting an object. It's like you did it. It's great you learned from it, but it terribly goes into your portfolio. So maybe you can make a line drawing of how this stuff works out instead of the actual one. Mirror base idea. Well, if you're going with a mirror base idea, at one point, why did you transfer for something that looks like it uses a filter to something that uses solar? And this does look attractive, but dang it looks expensive too. Don't do this. Get rid of the grid. Find a way to connect picture with the material horizontally. It might just be ... Minerals left aligned. Material, sorry. Left aligned and bolded. Right is left aligned and bolded. Numbers still correlate. I want a sequence of views of this thing. We can't really do that either. See where it's cut off? If you do have one that's cut off, consider using a very light white line. So maybe it's 0.25 to box it in because it feels like you just straight cut it off. You have ball bearings. Why? And you've already kind of done a materials list. Where did it go? So we don't need to do another materials as exploded view. You can do one or the other. No. Placeholder for in context image. All right, fine. Visual brain language. I'm not buying this either. I see a bunch of colors. You chose a color. I see absolutely no graphic development. You chose one logo. You added some colors. We chose a color. Not really difficult. And I don't see a process either. It's just you chose one almost ambiguously. It wouldn't look like this, right? If you have something that looks or fits those transparent, honesty, integrity. Let's see what their stuff looks like. Go to their website. Imagine if they had their information on the side of a truck. I'm pretty confident that it's going to look like it has more swag than this. This is a made it in Microsoft Word. So I know I shouldn't be critiquing the problems, but I can't get behind what I see because it doesn't match what I think's been going on. Like, this is a pretty slick looking design. I think that looks really nice. It looks expensive, but looks really nice. But then this isn't justified. So my suggestion, just kill off this portion and just focus on the product. Unless you want to go and add more work. They tasked you. How honorable. Thought they tasked the class. Don't like that guy. Corrugated challenge. Right? Scoot that up a little bit. Like scoot these closer to one another vertically. Ryan, this is bad English. They tasked me with finding holes in the corrugated market and developing a product that will fill one or more of them. This feels funky. I need some image here, not so much that one. Remember what I said earlier today? If you are going to show research or show graphs, make sure it's contextual to the project. I'm already angry. This looks like I saw last time. I don't even think you worked at it. Bullshit. Next. All right. All right. Still feel like we're missing why you did this. Nero. Are these supposed to be spread of ones up? I'm assuming it's one ups. Don't show me this right now. Once again, I feel like you're showing the solution too quickly. What's the problem? Plastic water bottles. This is, it's not quite 1/4, less than that. But it doesn't correlate to anything you're talking about. This is more intriguing to me than anything else. Is there a way to design a product that extends the use life of plastic bottles? Well, one reason you could start bringing attention to that is plastic's an amazing material, and when you use it for 15 minutes and throw it away and it doesn't degrade for 300 years, it's just not a very good investment of using that material. I think there's a better way to visualize this information. I would do rule of thirds, water bottle, misspelled pollution. Y'all, when y'all have misspelled stuff, all you got to do is hit Command I or Control I. Chances are it'll find it. Placidic. Another one, placidic. All right, so back to the rule of thirds. 50% of all plastic is thrown away after one use. So, trash can, bottle, a shiny bottle going into the trash can. Plastic bottles make 30% of plastic pollution. I might show that the Pacific gyre. So think of the world, then you have, California, you got Asia, Pacific gyre. Actually, maybe you could double this information, right? Pacific gyre, and then you got like the spiral going around. And then Americans throw 350 billion plastic bottles. How can you visualize that? That's enough to, well, this is more, those are both volume things. So maybe you show me a weight. So it's the weight of 3 or 4 famous buildings. Next question, it can be all by itself. How might we design a product that extends the use of plastic water bottles? Then we go into this. Is there any progress? Not so much. I mean, this is what I'm saying. What are you trying to solve? What are the multiple ways you can reuse plastic bottles? And do you have to do you have to clean them out? That's kind of one of the downsides, is they can hide bacteria after a couple uses. And they aren't as resilient as like stainless steel. They're a bit more porous, I think. So what ways are you trying to solve the problem? And then when you get to that, it makes more sense. Right now it says I just drew shapes, and this is the prettiest shape. At least that's what it communicates to me. Also, what's up with the blue? You see the blue you use in the Nero? It should be that similar blue. Form development. What are you trying to develop on? And what did you improve? Because that looks pretty close to the final rendition. Also, this is kind of a weird view. That thing seems vertical. That seems horizontal. That's okay. That needs to be in a vertical orientation. Maybe those two as well. So in terms of developing the storm, can you be more explicit? How did you develop it? Because all I see is you did a sketch, you made it, you have a final 3D model. Also, I don't know if we need the gray. I would move these guys up slightly, take that gray and make it white. Filter housing goes under here. Universal water storage goes under here. Low profile design goes under here. And then if there's any way to back that down so it's 3 cents instead of 4, same thing with that. I think that would help. Shows me the home. You need a sequence of use. And it's automated. You got to show me how it's automated. And it's a water filtration system. How are you going to get water into that system? And why is it pixelated? We got some things to work on. I'm worried. Why are we looking at the Grand Canyon? Are we talking about GoPros? We're talking about something else. All right, I'll leave that alone. What's the goal of the project? How long did you spend working on it? Was it a group or was it individual? I think that should be addressed here. That when I jump into this, like, oh, okay, so it's a brand extension. So therefore, in order to do a brand extension, I've got to understand what the brand is first. That way you can extend it. So I feel like that's one page. I feel like this can be one page with one element added. Design problem, not going to read a word of any of that. Too small. It looks like we're in gaming. I don't know why we have ellipses or ovals. Why can't we just have squares? And then I need you to bullet point or just a statement of where you're going with this. What are you trying to solve? Vulcan, ironically, thinking Birmingham's called the Vulcan. All right, so you were in the category of like action sports and you're taking into something similar but different, but what is it? I don't know. I'd rather see squares instead of ovals. I don't know, it feels weird. And are we sure you want to introduce your final logo before you actually show me the development for your final logo? Additionally, can you see this? That it's got this gray background. And these are kind of encompassed in white, except a couple of them aren't encompassed in white. Check your levels on this. And then tell me, simply, like it could be callouts. I feel like logo development at least deserves 2 pages because you're developing a logo. You go through these, what are the pros and cons, you develop a little bit further, you got 3 renditions, and the 3 renditions you got to the final one. But it's just, think of it as if this is a sketch page, of sketch development. You did 9, you did 4, you did 1. It lacks a little bit of the volume, so you got to explain your decision process if it's this fast. Yo, I hate that brochure. Are you telling me that this is the design, like this is the brochure or not? Why did you do a brochure is another good question, right? I need to know what sub-brand you're getting into. And then exhibit. I'd rather see exhibit design first and then elements that are in addition to the exhibit rather than the exhibit the brochure first and then the exhibit. But it doesn't seem there's a lot of design process about this either. It's just like you took some inspiration from the new Atlanta stadium and made a form. So I think you're good with some work up to here, but then when you extend to these other brands, I'm like, why? What's the point? I know Shuin or whoever teaches this class told you to. It's not a really good way to. It's like you're stretching them out to make it seem like you have more than you actually have. And the downside is like you really can't stack these now. Oppositely, if it was flat, you could stack it. So I'm just lacking to see the reason behind doing this. And then if I knew specifically what design elements you pulled from the parent brand to exist in the sub-brand, seeing this might make more sense. Just not really loving the later few portions. Alright, can't tell. Got to keep reading. Goal. Too many words. Give me one big statement, one sentence, and then you can have the extra if you want to. It's like you went from primary, you skipped secondary, you went to tertiary. Also, knock down that line bonus just a tad. Module systems. I can read that one. This one. Maybe do some bolding here. I know that didn't change other than I guess you vectored it out. I wonder if there's a third thing. So maybe instead of this, you see how that half circle gets lost here? And it feels like that page is scrunched and it's got a broken screen. That people are trying to look for the bracket. It's just weird trying to force the binoculars, which squinty eyes is more accurate. And this, in theory, could work, right? It's a one-to-one person. I understand why here it doesn't work, and I understand why here it's dangerous. Maybe, man, rule of thirds. Problems with on-site communication problems. So problem 1, TVs are hard to carry, hard to set up. Laptops are too small to be seen to a group. Transporting screens often leads to potential damage. Still understand why we're breaking these down. Break easily. Well, of course, if you drop it, it breaks easily. I mean, they're not like they're kind of delicate objects. They use optics. You drop your glasses on concrete. What do you expect? So it's not that wild of a thought to think that something that uses lenses is delicate. Drop a camera anytime. You'll see why. Alright, so sure, you want to use a projector. It needs to be more rugged. Huge downside is that it typically doesn't have the light to work in a workplace setting. What's up with all the different colors? Then you have some funky spacing. So all this has equal spacing, and then you have this giant gap, and that giant gap, and that giant gap. So we've got to do alignment. Also, you don't have to, so this is 12 filled in spaces. You don't have to fill in all the spaces. You can do the James Swayze thing, Swayze, knock some of these back where they're not as prominent, but man, it's just too much on one page. This works all right. Maybe bold the things you're talking about. Rubber overmolds protects against falls. That's what I want to see. Body shape gives more room. Front speaker, bring more attention to things you want me to see. All right, that'll work. Just an idea. What if you change, I don't know if I'm going to tell you, if it works, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it. But change these numbers to green, although they work right now. Just curious. Rule of thirds, these should be circles instead of ellipses if possible. I'm not going to read any of your font. It's too hard to read. What are you trying to tell me? I don't know. This might deserve more than one page. Type R, cool. Another thing, because it is a Roby project, you do explain how the 1+ system works. And then it's part of your description to integrate it. All right, close. How many more? Can I do this? I think I can do it. Oh, good Lord, eh? Let's not start off with like this visual brand identity. Steve Madden. More simple. Give a name to your lamp. Do luminous, flat pack design lamp. Exploration in, I don't want to say luminosity, but shape and warmth, something like that. I do like how you're integrating the Steve Madden. See how you're blocking things off? I think graphically it's just killing you. I mean, this is the first thing I see because of this drop shadow, which I don't really want about drop shadows. Also, this is way too bold. Images first, text second. So, I like where you're going. I'm interested in this line. I lost my focus. Let me see if I can get it back. Alright, if you are introducing something to a Steve Madden pop-up shop, are these the goals you got to go for? It needs to be asymmetrical, natural, and modern. Then I want to see exploration in asymmetrical, natural, and modern. A subtle way you can do that, and it's not going to look subtle with the way you're doing the text right now, is you can color these a little bit differently. And then the next page is you have circles that correlate to those colors. That tells me, okay, so this one is asymmetrical, and don't even know. Natural, like this one's mono, this one's asymmetrical. That way I can see you exploring around with ideas that you need to be going after. I think this is an entire page. This shouldn't be forced on it. You can use this format. This is a format that I'm familiar with because my portfolio has it, where it's a large image, but over here is more for text. And right now you're forcing it with even more images and text that has no hierarchy, so I'm not going to read it. So I'd rather you go 1 page, 2 page, and don't do this break off. This might make sense, right? Give me a statement, not a 3-line sentence. I still don't know what that is, so it's hard for me to give you feedback. I do like it in Steve Madden. What's up with Azure? I don't know. Well, I know it's done by you. I know it's done by Auburn because it's your portfolio and your resume is going to say this stuff. I don't care this in a foundation studio. What are the benefits of this final deliverable? Like, top 3 benefits. Maintains brand continuity, gives a freshness and a dynamic feel to the space, something like that. My man, solving problems. Except for that giant block of text, not going to read a word. Ruby OnePlus system, which is this. Most people will be using this. I'm not going to read none of that. So, y'all are tasked with using the OnePlus system. Is this the fastest way you can explain? That almost does it. 125 tools, 1 battery. So what are you tasked with? Well, extending that into lifestyle brands in the garage. What about this little square too? I don't think it's benefiting you. You can use it here, but you can't use it on both. So project brief, maybe project brief is written in green. You can use it over here. Later on, opportunity areas can be in green. Another thing that kind of gives you some flexibility is, like, we'll call this the green project. Your headings are in green and your marker is in green. And then for another project, they're blue. And then another project gets purple. Opportunity areas. Okay. Opportunity to make some content is, these are solving somebody's problem. I don't know who's somebody's problem. And so at some point in your portfolio, if you need to be explained like a persona, then a persona will go in between these two and say, hey, these are my needs in a shop. And then later down here, like, okay, these are possible ways to solve my needs, but you got to tell me why these aren't, why they don't cut it. And then you searched all of them. Maybe instead of like show me 4, show me 3, because it doesn't appear you're investigating 4 different categories in your sketch development. You could. I don't really know because I don't have any callouts and I can't read out the callouts that you have. So maybe 3 categories and then a statement underneath. Drying lacks something. Water heating lacks something. That way there's an opportunity for improvement in your sketching development. Concept selection, sure. Bad handwriting, let's fix it. Either you handwrite it or you can type something in. What's a squirrel cage fan? Squirrel cage blower fan. I don't want to have to read that much. Can you give me that in a shorter, more brief chunk of information? Because it seems like a true redirect. Fan has potential, but for some reason squirrel fan has even more potential. And so, did you do anything with drying. Maybe you did something with drying. One of these got to go. I feel pretty strongly about that. Talk about redoing these. They don't feel. This is my last warning. You have to redo these because that feels more complete than that does. It doesn't make sense in terms of process because the later you get, the better things should become. Also, no. You can have one, you can't have both. And I do like models, but sketches come before models. And when you do models, you need to explain what you've learned from the models. I don't see that. Visual brand language application. Cool. But I want to see it here. It's almost, because this doesn't say visual brand language application. That does, but there's sketches on a wall, so it's kind of hard for me to pull out and tell, aspects of the VBL. What I want are like two images sort of like this, and maybe an exploded view detailing what the functions it has, and then an image very much like this that talks about the visual brand language you pulled in from Ryobi's larger line. Cool. Maybe use the same white font, just a little description. 1, 2, 3. Using in context. Nice. That's gonna be like 30 point font. Give me a heading, and then that's got to be knocked down significantly because the heading is the really thing that I'm going to read in the first round. Not that much text. Sorry, I posted to grad first. That's okay. All right, this is collaboration. Sure. All right, if you're introducing the original technology housing, what does it do? How does it work? All right, that's what I'm talking about. That seems like it's significant as a 5-foot range, but this is what it doesn't do. Is there something you can make a parallel to? Like, does it literally work like dolphin or bat sonar? Something that we can, I understand how that is. That way it doesn't seem like such a foreign concept to us. You have a different type of audio visual technology. I don't really know why this is here. Are you being inspired by the tech? Are you being inspired by the wearables? Or are you being inspired by the futurism? I don't know. This seems important. These go on the chest. The red ones, not really sure. I also worry about these being too big of sketches. All right, you tell me what you did. I don't really care as much what you did. I want to know what you learned from doing what you did. You either needed more space. Do you need less space? It works pretty good. This works. This doesn't. So this needs some more assistance. Try to keep this spacing equal, like this, I don't know, 1/8 inch better than I do that 3/16 inch. I don't know who else did in the class earlier. Take what they did and copy it. So instead of like you have so many individual pictures, I'd rather see just one big picture. I like sequence of use. Is there a way to make these look different? All right, one, two, three, four. Do I really need to know how to unsnap it? It's kind of an easy function. Also, I'm just judging by the visuals you've given me essentially the entire time. Try to keep inside the black, green, gray family because the red kind of clashes. Right? I like what's being said on this page. I think it needs a little bit more help, but I don't think the color palette matches what you have on later. So just some thoughts. And what's the goal? I mean, I know you have this old device, you repackage it, you made it a cool shell, but is that the reason to make a cool shell? Or is it something else? If it is, somebody should be walking around with this cat, experiencing the real world, laughing with friends, not standing static. Just some thoughts there. Hey, Benjamin Humphreys, what's going on? Look in the files, brother. Who says that? That's the Macho Man. All right, sorry, Dave Stew. We got a backpack. Haiti Supply medical backpack. Let's like right align these things. But God Ministries. Interesting, very interesting name there. Right align, Haiti Medical. Scale it up so it's equal. Scale that section up so it's equal with the K and backpack. Make it a little bit bold because Haiti Medical is more important than Supply Backpack, where Supply Backpack is being modified by Haiti Medical. I think so. So make those equal, place them here. Then give me the basic information. How many weeks? You already told me who would you work for. Is it a group or is it an individual project? Give me information about this. What's their goal in Haiti? Let's see if we can streamline this. Doctors need to get to remote patient quickly and balance 5 very important factors. Accurate dosage, the right medicine, timely travel, vital signs, something like that. This is a really bad sketch page, man. It's really difficult to combine things that are orthographic and on this page with images on sketches another page. It's almost like I'm seeing into a different world and not really working. This guy's got to be reorganized. I see there's some of the goals, so you need to re-emphasize that you're working towards these goals with these sketches, but redo page. I'm fine with this page. I think it looks much better, but until you give me the process, I'm not really sure you actually earned to be at this spot. Supplies list. I think this guy should become sooner, right? Because if you're talking about the most essential things, these things will take form of supplies. It's just an ugly page. What you're saying is good and valid. Is there a hierarchy? Which ones are more essential than other ones, right? So miscellaneous supplies probably won't be the most important because it's miscellaneous. And 34 pounds of weight, yeah, that's heavy, but it's not like military heavy. Also, I think you jumped to the solution a bit too fast. Right? Backpack, and then boom, I see your final backpack right here. Probably shouldn't. I should see your information first, an exploded view of the backpack. where all these elements go in the backpack. So maybe there's some symbols you can come up with for first response, wound care, test kits, medicine. And then those logos could be superimposed over these. Because right now I'm just guessing which has what. If you're trying to be fast and design these things correctly, some visual logos could help me reduce the amount of mistakes that I make by trying to find that one syringe. You know what I'm talking about? All right, move this to the side. Maybe give him a direct quote from a doctor. Why it's so good. Why it changes things. Justice, right? Randy the Macho Man Savage. All right, the cigarette boutaz. Problem here. What's up with these pages, man? It seems like that's a spread and that's a spread. Very little has changed. That changed. You added text. Told you to redo that. Told you to redo that. Whatever. Told you to work on that. Cool, but I need some type of description. Keep it brief. Didn't change. I don't mind that. I think that font's going to be way too large. That's the same. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are you trying to accomplish? I don't think you changed hardly anything. This is one of my time. Brother. Musical vision. Sounds cool. Give me some other descriptions here. So, how long? Who'd you work with? Is musical vision the same thing as Georgia Tech? The text is really disgusting. I think this is worth redoing because this is very essential. If you don't explain to me convincingly how this guy works, everything else in the project is lost. So don't read any of this. So it's not worth having. You work with Georgia Tech plus Auburn. So explain what this is, what it solves, what it's yet to solve, and that'll set up this part. Why is this? All right, so this might be the real person, but it doesn't really matter because I don't know. It doesn't feel like it fits. Like this is a different person than the person you're describing. It could be. I could be wrong. I don't know. Isn't it a giant range, though, of people who are visually impaired? You only have two options, no light and perceived light, and this comes in a big range. So maybe this needs to be more descriptive. Types of available mobility for vision impaired. But then again, this goes on a spectrum too, right? So when you get to no light perception, you're getting down in Service Dog or something else. If you can perceive light, then maybe it's the cane. So I think this needs to be reworked to be more accurate and descriptive. Additionally, explain what this does and what it lacks. Then what are my opportunities? Cool that you do these sketches, but if they're not really relevant. And the giant downside is like this feels like this hand done and it looks good. But then I go to these, they don't look as good. They look more engineering. I hate to say that word. And line drawings, they don't really go together. So let's redraw these. If you can give me some headings for like, all right, what are the type of personal solutions? Here are some categories, and then explore the categories through your sketches. It would make more sense than saying, here, these are the sketches that I have. 3D print trials. Well, I don't care about 3D printing. I taught Justin Murphy how to use a 3D printer in 30 minutes. It's not really a skill unless you're trying something that's really radical. So To me, this isn't useless. I mean, this is useless because what does it accomplish? And why do you have to fit it into a different form factor? What's the benefit? How does it benefit the user? You're putting it on the hip with some bad Photoshop jobs. Nah. And why do you decide to put it on the hip instead of like the clavicle? Text is terrible. Scrap page. That's one page. Stick with this. This is good. This other stuff needs to work to a different page. And then this is more like at the end. Like, show me how your solution is better than theirs. You show me how theirs works here. You show me some problems. Finally, at the very end, the validation. Show me how it fixes problems and it's superior to the first model. That's how you prove success. But a lot of these photos, there's stuff that you have that aren't really relevant. All right. That's everything that's posted on this side.